Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending RTI's complimentary webinar entitled Consumer Demand, Platform for Successful Innovation. My name is Todd Doreen, and I'm Head of Marketing here at RTI Research. Before we get started with our presentation, I'd like to mention a few housekeeping things first. We will record this presentation and post it to our website, and all attendees will be in muted mode, but do have the capability to ask questions at any time through the GoToWebinar chat function. We'll be monitoring those questions and hopefully answer all of them, but if we don't, we'll follow up afterwards. At the end of the webinar and when you exit, there will be a short, very short survey pop-up, and we'd greatly appreciate if you would answer those questions, which will give us feedback and suggestions for future webcasts. Our presenters today will be John Houghton and Michelle McDonald. Just trying to get to the second page here to give you a look of us. John is in the middle, and John joined RTI in 1995 and currently leads a team of research professionals with a broad and vast expertise in various business sectors such as financial services, retail, and the restaurant industries. John's counsel on new product development and brand strategy is especially valued and sought after by his clients and new prospects. Our co-presenter is Michelle McDonald. I'm sure you could figure out which one is her. She brings over 10 years research experience and leads the execution of several large-scale programs, including multiple hybrid communities, as well as ad hoc initiatives for key retail and financial services clients. Prior to RTI, Michelle held leadership roles at Insight Express, TNS, and NFO. Okay, let's get started with today's webinar. It's with great pleasure to introduce John Houghton and Michelle McDonald. It's all yours.
Thanks, Todd. It's so nice to see so many people sign up and join us here today. We are going to talk about a very important topic, and I think something that hopefully you'll all take away, something that's valuable from it. But I'd like to start with just an overview of why this is important and the importance of innovation. If you look at successful companies, those that are the highest performers, they are the ones that innovate the best. For example, you can see here that they innovate bring more new products to market. They bring them to market 5 times faster than their competition. In fact, top quartile CPG companies generate 20% more revenue from new products than those in the bottom quartile. Another interesting element here is that if in work that we have done relative to the middle market, when you look at those organizations that we consider growth champions, those that are really the stars of the middle market, the largest differential that they have relative to their peers is innovation and their mindset of innovation. So again, an important topic, and something that I think we're happy to share our perspective on. The agenda today is quite simple. We feel that there are some opportunities within the innovation process to create better ideas, to bring them to market faster, and also to bring them with a greater focus on the subject we're here to talk about today, which is demand, and that is encompassed in really supplying the marketplace with products and services that consumers, businesses, the full range of our customers really, truly want. Obviously, those have some significant advantages, both in terms of market success, but also in terms of price and the like. We'll talk a little bit about how research, market research, and research organizations in general can help create a more balanced perspective by bridging what we call the supply side, demand side gap, and we'll certainly talk about that. And also provide really some very practical steps about how insights departments, insights practitioners more broadly can ultimately drive a more focused and successful approach to innovation. And as Todd said, ask questions through the webinar mechanism here, and we're hopefully going to be able to answer any and all. Okay? Well, let's begin, really, by saying we all know that we're investing a significant amount in innovation. We're using outside innovation suppliers. We are investing in whole innovation departments. But really, what has the growth of the sort of innovation category gotten us so far? Well, this is data from a 2008 study, and if it's from 2008, you can only imagine what it looks like now. But in terms of an average consumer packaged goods company, they bring about 553 ideas into their NPD process. Of those, only 38 ever see the light of day. That's about a 7% return. And if you look at the specific categories within the CPG world, you can see that the number of ideas that ever make it to the end game is infinitesimal. But why do we care about this? These stats are dumbfounding. So if you look at what comes to market, 95% of new products, according to Forbes, fail in the first year. That's a $260 billion loss to the U.S. economy overall. I think what is fascinating, though, is this quote from the head of IRI from some years ago. He said, "Success rates of launches have gone virtually unchanged for the past 30 years." So if we're investing so much and we are spending so much effort, and yet our success rates have really not gone, paid off, improved, what are we getting? But more importantly, why is that, right? In our view, and the focus of our discussion here, is that the consumer has been brought into the innovation process much later than they have ever been in the past, and also that the needs are being lost in the process. It's what we call the demand-side gap. It is this focus that we are seeing in the innovation world on what we can supply to the market rather than what we can provide in terms of hitting a need.
And I think that what we've seen over and over is that by the time all of you folks on the phone, and certainly what we see here at RTI, by the time we're brought into the process, the decisions have already been made in terms of what can be produced, what can the company provide, so that the consumer needs are considered later in the process and often force fit. So what does this new product, what need does that fit to, as opposed to what needs exist in the market?
And so this gap is fundamental. It is a clarion call, I think, to those of us in insights and in the innovation process to bring the consumer and consumer need to the forefront of the process. So if you can just flip, Todd. Our view is that our processes are not broken. In fact, the NPD process is very similar across various categories in various industries, and in fact works very well at identifying what products will actually be successful and taking those that are not successful out of it. Our view is that the problem lies with the ideas themselves and with the quality of them as they enter the funnel. And what we're going to talk about today is really how do we enhance the quality of the ideas that go into the front end, sometimes called the fuzzy front end, which is pretty ironic given the fact that it's the place where you need the most clarity of all. And our argument, I think it has been borne out in the literature, is that simply put, as the AMR pointed out, simply put, most companies either choose not to, or in some cases do not have the full capability to provide the types of analytics and the types of insights that good ideas come from, or draw worthwhile consumer insights about their needs.
And just before we go on, we're talking an awful lot about consumer needs and consumer demands, but certainly in our research, we've seen that this also applies to B2B and improved products and services for professionals and when selling to firms.
It's the same situation regardless of the end customer, as I intimated earlier. What has drawn us to this conclusion, though, is really the type of ideas, the kinds of ideas that we are being asked to test in final stages, and the inefficiencies that we see in doing so. We are very often faced with laundry lists of potential benefits, none of which, or only a few of which, actually target a specific need or can be articulated to target a specific need. And obviously, if those ideas have made it through the process to the time when a quantitative research organization like RTI is picking up on them, that creates huge inefficiencies and huge amounts of rework. So we say closing the gap means that we need to have a better set of insights into demand. And I think the idea that providing a product or a service that consumers need and doing so in a manner that allows them to or gives them the impetus to pay a full price for is critical. So why don't we just move on? We'd like to start with a simple practical example. Those market research practitioners on the phone will clearly be able to understand what this chart shows, which is just simply a correspondence analysis or a perceptual overview of a market where we have brands and their attributes or benefits arrayed. And you know, we see this all the time, but what you'll notice is that it is all about what is supplied in the marketplace. And in fact, these types of analysis are excellent at identifying the supply-side gaps. You can see that we are able to say, wow, there's white space there, no product is being offered, and that it's a potential place for us to either extend our brand to or for us to invest in innovation efforts to try to capture that space. The problem, however, is that, again, it's a supply-side only focus. And we don't know whether there's any demand in that white space. If, however, you bridge the demand-side gap, you'll notice that as we overlay our demand, or our segments in this case, and a simple process to do, you can start to see that the full perspective gives us very specific insights as to where we should invest our time and energy, where we should invest our innovation dollars. And that is, yes, there is a segment at segment A, but if one were going to target the white space in the lower central quadrant here, the answer would be no. There's just simply no demand at that specific space. So again, bringing this demand-side, supply-side view together allows us to really understand opportunity. As we say, it's that intersection where real differentiated value propositions can be created. Okay. So what is the demand side focus, and how do we address this? I think it starts by recognizing that we all are gathering these insights already. That the data and the effort and the types of research are ongoing in our organizations currently. It is really about how we synthesize and communicate the ideas or the insights that is more revolutionary than any miracle methodology that one could come up with.
We certainly were discussing this yesterday amongst ourselves, that so often we've been historically siloed. The research projects and programs are siloed, and the analysis doesn't transcend across what we know from prior work, from industry knowledge, from other teams within the organization and other projects that have been done. So it's really what we're advocating for now is about the synthesis of bringing together what you know about your target audience in terms of the needs to bring that forward into the new product development process.
It's essentially the idea, and I think we've demonstrated that the specific need for insight exists. To create or to have insights create an innovation engine, right? In fact, I think it's up to us as researchers, as insights professionals, as insights departments, as the research category or industry in general, really, to champion the need for demand within the innovation space. I think it's that important. It is going to streamline the process in our organizations. It is going to reduce cost of innovation, I think, significantly. But most importantly, it is going to provide us the quality of initial ideas that lead into the funnel.
And I think I love this quote because I think it really just speaks to this idea of not thinking in terms of what we can provide, but allowing ourselves to listen to what the consumers are telling us and what they really need. So taking off our own needs or taking off our own shoes and listening to the others.
So how do we do this? Well, we think that there are really 6 practical steps that insights professionals can take to drive this idea of bridging the demand-side gap. Okay? And they are, at one point, very simple, and in some cases more complex. But as we talked about, they are all about leveraging the current sources of information and the current insights that are generated within the organization. First, as our example shows, it is to bring the demand side back into your market studies. That the overlay of demand and supply, what is offered in the marketplace and who wants it and what they want, is significant. And it's a simple process. The way these maps can be created is just simply by getting the importance of the same brand rating elements that the brands are rated on. It's a simple add to a questionnaire, but the richness of the information, the richness of the insights, and in fact the strategic direction that one can take from them is extraordinary and important. Now, some organizations do this type of work routinely. We're all conducting segmentation work. We are all conducting these types of landscape studies. But the fact of the matter is that we need to start to have this mindset. And what we are really talking about today is not a revolutionary way of thinking, but just a reorientation organization of the mindset of do what we put in front of the consumer isn't what they really need. And if we follow through on that thought process throughout the innovation process, we are going to end up with better ideas and more successful products. The second thing that we think is this idea of focusing on need fulfillment throughout the research process. And it's equally simple. It is about bringing the need context into even the most mundane pieces of research that we are doing, if you can call research mundane. Most people do, I guess. But the fact is that by understanding need, even in our concepts, by simply adding need fulfillment as a specific section in a questionnaire is very powerful. For example, in the work that we do here at RTI, even in a simple concept test, we are assessing whether the concept not only has a strong PI, not only is differentiated in the market and all of the other traditional concept work that we all do, but also that it addresses the specific needs that it was designed against. And it is in that context, I think, that we really understand and can provide real direction back to our teams and those on the phone, back to the developers. A product can have pretty strong trial. It can have be somewhat differentiated in the marketplace. But if it does not address the need for which it was designed, you may get trial, but you may not, and probably will not, get sustained use. And that really is, I think, the importance here. We are talking about, yes, trial is critically important, but in order to be successful, as we saw earlier, you need to have long-term sustained use, and that is a derivation of demand or of need. The other aspect of this is just simply to ascertain things like willingness to pay, solving a problem. The simple issue is just to include the need and demand side in everything that we do.
And I think also to focus on it. I think that we've all been trained and have been in the habit of including these types of metrics. So, does the product meet a need? That's in a standard concept test, I think, every one I've ever seen. But very often, it becomes such a secondary measure, and I think that it should not be ignored. It is a primary driver of success.
Right. So these are very practical steps that we can take, and we can take them right now, that bring our view of demand and what we would supply into harmony to some degree. But we all hear it all the time. I mean, is that consumers can't articulate their needs, right? That they don't know what they don't need, and we don't know what they need. And how do we do that? Well, the simple fact is that we are doing ethnography. We are doing in-depth qualitative work. We have shopper insights groups that are generating significant data into how people shop and their choices. But the idea is that there is a framework that one can create that really looks and takes all of that data and looks at it in terms of uncovering those hidden needs or latent needs, as the literature talks about. One mechanism, and that's just one mechanism, that we prefer here at RTI is what we call means end chain theory. It's been around since the 70s and is essentially based on this idea that individuals make their choices based on how they live their lives, excuse me, and how they seek to behave. In fact, we can see that there are these end states about how I strive for, where I want to go with my life, that reflect product benefits, which then lead themselves to the specific features that that one would offer in order to do it. But understanding that whole hierarchy is essential if we are going to define product and communication strategies, particularly given the fact that we can derive the overall consumer value through the use of means and change. And a simple example is shown here in the auto insurance category, just picked from our library here. But the idea here is you can see very across the top that individuals seek peace of mind, comfort, recognition, and self-esteem. Now, while an individual would never be able to articulate that, we can identify through qualitative laddering techniques, as well as through some proprietary quantitative techniques, by the way, that there's this linkage between the function, the emotional benefits, and the way these individuals like to seek to live their lives. But this is just an example of really a recommendation to put together a framework of how we can bring the qualitative insights, the laddering insights, together in a way that makes the most sense for people, that identifies the overall consumer need, so that we can create and ideate against a known set of facts. The other idea is this idea of social media listening. It's new, but everybody is sort of on the bandwagon in some form or fashion. We're all listening to people who have whole departments usually contained in corporate communications where they are analyzing what people are saying about our brands and the like. Our view, though, is that social media is clearly important to the communications folks and to brand builders and the like, but they can be hugely important to innovators and product developers as well. I think the interesting piece here is that the new technologies that have been that have come to the fore in terms of text mining and the like have really given us a significant advantage over where we were even about a year or two ago when RTI first started looking at this type of engine. It was really in its infancy stage, and the results were, well, I'd say not as good as we hoped they would be. But the rapid development of text mining capability has really shown that we are able to really understand the way in which consumers prefer one product over another. And it's not just simply looking at the sentiment, I guess we call it, of what they think about brands, but it's really uncovering and getting underneath what they are saying about products. And the interesting facts are on the table to the right here, where you can see that overall, and this is data from the Pew Research Center, 32% of Internet users in total have written a review online and posted it online. And what is astounding is that 40% of those with $75,000 or more in income have done so. the proliferation of reviews, the proliferation of social media commentary on specific products and services has, I think, yielded us a significant body of data, granted with all the caveats that one would ever provide, but they can give us significant insight about what people are saying and about what their needs are in a very revolutionary and very quick to address kind of way.
And the technology, as John was alluding to, the technology to mine that data has grown, but also the technology and availability of social media and use across the population has grown. So, I mean, this data is from 2010. Already, I'm sure it's jumped significantly since then with the proliferation, of mobile devices, smartphones, and tablets.
So, I mean, so this is one revolutionary way, I think, or one way to bring this, the idea of social media into the forefront of insights, needs creation. But a big part of the innovation process these days is this idea of harnessing the crowd in terms of co-creation, it's called. We are using creative consumers, smart consumers. The litany of consumers that we are faced with is staggering. But the one thing they all have in common is this idea that users, that customers, can help us create products and services and are an integral part of the actual innovation process is significantly taken off. And with some success. Certainly in the high-tech industry, the ability to engage individuals at the earliest stages makes a great deal of sense. And that principle has sort of been applied to others, where we are now engaged in co-creation, in financial services, in a range of different categories. And I think with mixed success. If one takes the idea that what the consumers create is gospel, and we use some form of reduction techniques where we take all of their ideas and rate them in some fashion, we are finding that individuals or individual organizations are sometimes putting too much faith in the hands of their co-creators. But if you spin the way in which the output of these exercises is used just slightly, they become incredibly valuable sources of insight into what the consumers need. And it is in that context that we think harnessing the power of the crowd can be very beneficial for innovators. Clearly, there could be that breakout idea, and very often we do find that there are one or two things that really do resonate. So the fact of the matter is that the type of co-creation does work to a degree, but the largest number of ideas, if we look at them with this lens of need rather than of the idea itself, creates a very strong platform for us as innovators. I mean, here at RTI we use a hybrid panel technique where we have structured surveys, and in addition to that, it also has a dedicated social media component where panel members interact and can conduct crowdsourced exercises and the like. And that provides us a particularly unique, I think, perspective in terms of having identified need and then being able to bridge the gap and look at how individuals create ideas and in our research between the two, we found a very strong correlation between the types of ideas created in the community aspect and the types of needs that were actually identified or articulated in more structured ways. So again, harness the power of the crowd. The data exists. Co-creation is an important step forward, I think, in bringing the consumer voice into the innovation process. But the fact of the matter is that the bulk of those ideas show very strong potential in terms of identifying need, whereas they may not provide that sort of breakthrough idea that we're all seeking. Finally, we've talked a little bit about this. It is really about creating an organizational structure within insights groups or within innovation groups that allows us to leverage these various components, market studies, the social media as we talked about, creative consumers or co-creation, identifying hidden needs, and also bringing in that vast quantity of data that we get from Shopper or our syndicated work into a focused innovation insights. We call it an engine, but it's really a framework. It's a way to synthesize this information with a focus on consumer need and then communicate that back out to the innovation teams as they are beginning these processes. It's really about providing better insights before the ideas hit the funnel than it is about creating large quantities of ideas, as I think many of us focus on now. But most importantly, I think as insights professionals, in particular, that it's our responsibility. It is our role as we face the winds of change that are hitting the insights industry in general, where we are asked to be more consultative. This is a perfect example of how to do that. So with that, I see we have some ideas coming up, and we can certainly talk about them.
So, John, I think a question that was posed: any ideas for team facilitation sessions to generate ideas after we understand consumer needs?
Certainly, we use a technique that proves very valuable, where we actually, after the needs are identified, we create hypothesized frameworks that are then shared with the teams in facilitated sessions. And in fact, once the needs are identified, ideation becomes a much simpler process. It becomes so much easier to innovate in a given context than it does in just a broad product context. So if you can break out these specific sections, these sessions, I should argue, into essentially identifying solutions to need states rather than to a new product, right? It becomes much simpler, much easier, and much more focused. So yes, the idea is that if you bring the need states into the facilitated session where ideation is taking place, be it internal, and most ideation sessions are those among our internal colleagues, it brings the voice of the consumer into the conference room, and I would argue most cases the voice of the consumer beats the voice of the conference room hands down.
Another question. You talked about incorporating need into landscape studies. Could you be a little bit more specific about how to do that?
Sure, and as just simply, it is simply having the mindset of both demand and supply in the creation or the design of the work to begin with. The example we used here, which was quite simply the asking those that either in a stated importance type of battery or using multivariate regression work to come up with the importance of the specific brand elements to individuals. It gives us a clear focus. So if you do a segmentation and you can identify the hierarchy of need, if you will, that segment has, and juxtapose that against what is offered in the marketplace, it can provide, as we saw here, some very powerful opportunities. I mean, we have a technique here where we're able to actually take a brand in a specific quadrant of the perceptual space and understand what the brand equities would need to look like at another point in that same perceptual space. So, for example, if we're going to extend our brand into a, let's call it a healthy positioning, we would understand not only what that brand has to look like from an equity perspective, but we could also juxtapose those equities against the known desires of individuals within that same perceptual space. That type of analysis, that type of insight provides very, very concrete ideas around what should be innovated.
And just to piggyback on what John's saying, I think well beyond the landscape studies, we incorporate at least some sort of attitudinal measure into even basic concept tests so that we have that context of consumer need and that perspective when we're looking at results and reactions to new product ideas and positioning.
I mean, it's as simple as understanding that a specific segment of the population has a specific need and to understand what the concepts look like against that. Our argument, I think, throughout this whole presentation here today is that if we start by identifying needs and we ideate against it, the benefits that we are articulating to the consumer should hit that need head on, and the benefits of doing so are significant. I mean, there is no price mismatch, so we don't have to discount. There is clear demand on an ongoing basis, not just trial. That it creates a focus, a very focused view of what gets introduced and what moves forward, so that we are really creating a framework in which only the best insights that actually address the need get through. And I think the data that we saw at the beginning of our presentation here today clearly shows that we need to create an environment where the best ideas and better ideas, more focused ideas, are being ideated.
One more question. We've started tracking social media, and we hear a lot of positives, some negatives about our product, but not much in the way of needs. What are we missing, or are we looking for the wrong thing?
Well, yeah, it's how you use social media that's really at the core here. It is social media right now is really about our brand is being perceived positively or our brand is being perceived negatively. The way in which one needs to think about social media is about using the actual underlying data, the verbatim responses through text analytics, in a way to think about what needs are. But it's really about the mindset. In everything that we've talked about here today, it is around about the mindset of demand, bringing the mindset of the consumer back into the innovation process. That is where the winning opportunity really lies.
Right, and so if your target is, for example, an affluent consumer, you need to think about, well, what is important and what does an affluent consumer need? And again, take off the the view of just related to my product, but what are the needs of the affluent consumer in terms of their families, travel, work, etc.
I mean, it's not easy, and in some categories have it better than others, because it's really about being able to focus in on those types of categories where individuals seek to provide comment.
Well, thank you so much, John and Michelle, for your presentation today and the expert insight to better understanding the consumer demand side of product innovation. Your expertise is obvious. Your knowledge transfer today, I'm sure, was appreciated by all. And as I mentioned, folks, we will be posting this webinar to our website. And when you have a few minutes, please visit us for additional company information and what overall services we provide. And be sure to check out our newly launched social media initiative in the Twitter space, as in Twitter, and the blogosphere. We have posted a couple of blogs, so be sure to check us out in that space. I would greatly appreciate it. Again, thank you all for listening, and this concludes our webinar today. Have a great day, and hopefully you can use these 10 minutes for some productive time, and we'll give it back to you. Have a great day, folks. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.